Yes, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Restoration Talks. We are back with a brand new episode, and today we're going to discuss do unto others, something that was mentioned in last week's show, and now we're going to look at it from from our own personal perspective. What does it exactly mean to do unto others? And as I am looking at my panel members, hello, welcome. I remember, I think it's Brother Joshua's favorite verse or thing that you live by. Yeah.
Wow, did you remember that?
Yeah, because I think you mentioned it twice now in the show. So let's start with you. I'm actually curious to know why is it your favorite verse?
um, Actually, it started when I was younger.
Mhm.
I was always a little bit favored by others, and I like that feeling. If someone gives you some love.
Hmm.
And when I was growing up, I was also mistreated by friends and all the kind of things, and you really see what life is. And I remember teaching of one of my pastors back in the days who used this scripture, and it really, I don't know, it really touched my heart that you just do nice to others and don't expect anything else.
Mhm.
And yeah, since I've lived that way, I just seen that I've better friends around me, my family, everything is just more loving,
Mhm.
and I'm also at peace at my heart. So that's why I always try to remember people from, hey, you just give the love out, and eventually you will also get it back. So that's a little bit backstory of why I love that scripture very much, because that's been through my whole years of growing up, and
Mhm.
yeah, I just stand fast on that.
Okay, nice of you to share, and also how it came about to be your favorite verse and how you live by it. You mentioned something about not expecting, or I think the pastor told you not to expect anything in return.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to for the other ones, yeah, what makes it that is that also what makes it difficult to do unto others as you would like them to do to you? Is there a certain expectation that you have, or what can make it difficult?
Yeah, we got this from the churches where
Mm-hmm.
they taught us to use this verse. But when you look in reality, when we put it in practice, it was very hard. For example, we the pastors were telling us invite people to come to the church,
Mm-hmm.
invite them to come to talk about Bible, but we will not go to them to listen to them. So we did what we wanted to do, but it was not like the Bible say treat the others like you want them to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
But always for me, it was very hard to put it in the practice because it was more like one side. Our side is good. We will listen. We want them to listen to to us,
Mm-hmm.
but we did not take the time to also think what they want. Maybe they wanted that we would listen to them also. So
Mm-hmm.
it for me the verse I never got it, but after I start to grow up and
Mm-hmm.
read the Bible more, then I start to understand it. But when I grew up, no, 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 no. I did not understand it and I did not apply it also.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So for you, you were not necessarily when younger, you were not necessarily busy with.
No,
Okay.
absolutely not. Not, not.
Okay. Sister Abby?
Honestly, I did not grow up with this. Uh,
Mhm,
I was more used to the saying, treat others how you want to be treated.
mhm,
In the minister explained last week that that is not necessarily the same.
mhm,
Even applying this saying, others how you want to be treated and not having expectations, like receiving something in return when you
mhm,
have the favor. That is something that I used to struggle a lot with.
mhm,
And honestly speaking, even sometimes, um, nowadays, because in some cases it is good to have expectations,
Mhm.
because that can also protect yourself. Because when you don't have expectations at all, people don't really know how far they can cross your line or how far they can go,
Mhm.
um, when it comes to your personal space, for instance. So I think in that sense, it is good to have certain expectations. Um,
Mhm.
even when you have done someone a favor, because you're showing kindness, and I think it's fair if the same person also show some kind of kindness back. And if that doesn't happen, I think it's not wrong to speak it out or to communicate with that person and
Mhm.
just remain quiet and treating that person with a silent treatment, because
Mhm.
to leave the person guessing, like, what did I do wrong? Like,
Mhm.
sometimes it can influence the relationship of the or the type of friendship that you have with an individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're already applying the wisdom part. Yeah. Yeah. I also learned that over the years that
Mhm.
um because I really don't expect much from many people. But
Mhm.
when I receive it, I'm overjoyed, of course. But also setting up your boundaries,
Yeah.
because I'm a busy person and a lot of people wants my attention for some reason. Yeah, and that makes it quite difficult, to manage all these kind of things. So eventually, I also had to learn how to set my boundaries and
Mhm.
still show those love and still show the love and kindness towards them. Yeah, so like what I said, you're applying the wisdom part here.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
something to learn.
and I can relate to what both of you just said. I think for me, when growing up, my parents did raise all of us always to treat others kindly, to always think of others as well. Um, I wouldn't say not put yourself first, but we tend to have this characteristic, all of us, to always go out of our way when helping and thinking of other people, but also in that learning how to have certain boundaries, because yeah, unfortunately the world we live in, there are a lot of people that just take, and if you're not careful, that can also lead to resentment. And I experienced that myself. If you pour out a lot and you don't necessarily get anything in return, not necessarily what you expecting, but it would be nice if the same would be given back. I guess that's quite normal to feel. So for me, when I go about my day or interactions with people, I'm always trying to think of, okay, if I would do this now, how would this have an influence or an impact on them? Think before you speak is one that I had to learn as well. Um, and yeah, expectations. I guess in certain types of relationships, it's normal to expect something. If you're friends, if you're maybe in a relationship or whatnot, it's not bad, or it's not wrong to have certain expectations. I guess, as the sister said, make sure that you voice out your expectations. I think that that already solves a lot of things. But we people, we don't tend to. We go into the reaction mode, into the emotion, but we're not really clear in communicating what it actually is, what we want or wanted to see from that person. So, yeah, I guess it goes both ways in a sense. And I think the minister also, if I remember correctly, also said that it's not a bad thing to expect, but don't do things with that in mind. I do this for you, then I will get this from you. That's a wrong motivation in that sense.
Yeah.
And I was also wondering, because I mentioned it, it's a bit the part of having a type of resentment that can grow. And the minister also talked about it, forgiveness. Doing unto others also has to do with forgiveness. It has to do with being kind towards your neighbors. And I was wondering how this has played a role in your own life. and how it then links to doing unto others. So the aspect of forgiveness.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, forgiveness. Yeah, it's something. I I used to be always a person that when I got into a fight, I will have a certain feeling like to make the first step,
Mm-hmm.
to settle it, to ask for forgiveness. And but when I grew up, I wasn't necessarily linking it to do good to others.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a way of being. I was always I always had the feeling like if I hurt somebody,
Mm-hmm.
it will it will keep me awake. So I have to settle it. I have to ask that person, hey, forgive me. And it's I start to understand that, like, you shouldn't be waiting for another person to make the first step. If you are able to do the first step, it's something great.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the way that we are living to walk in the way of Elohim, I think that's very necessary. That you will have that kind of feeling inside of you, like, let me ask for forgiveness, even though if that person doesn't want your forgiveness, he doesn't accept it, but at least you made that step, and so that your heart will not condemn you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. So for making sure for you that the you did your part as
yeah,
to if you can make it right or solve it, you did your part, and if the other person accepts or doesn't accept, it's not really that's not really your problem, if I can say it like that, but that's up to the other person, basically.
yeah. Because that's also part of the golden rules. We need forgiveness of Elohim,
Mm-hmm.
and if we cannot forgive each other, if you don't have even the feeling inside of you, like to settle things,
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard to settle things than with Elohim. If we put it in the scale, we do more evil to Elohim, and we ask for forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like with the thing that the Messiah say, like there was a man that owned a great king a lot of money, and the king pardoned him. And then when he went outside, came across someone who just owned him a little thing, and then he went all the way out. So in that kind of mindset, I try to live like, hey, let me make the first step, because when I look to Elohim and I look at my own life, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I do wonder though, because there's a question I have asked myself when reading the scriptures. There's a lot on forgiveness and how to forgive. So in my mind was like, okay, so it's not weird that a lot of people don't find it a very easy thing to do. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so much information on how to approach another. How can you forgive? Um, and I don't know if maybe Abigail of Joshua, have you experienced it yourself? What can make it? Maybe it's easy for you to do. You can also share that, but maybe it's also something more difficult for you to do. How is that for you, and how can you link that to maybe things from the scriptures that you have learned?
um, when you first asked this question, I was really thinking because I, people always say it is really hard to argue with me. um, but yeah, forgiveness. For me, if I have a conflict with someone, I try to solve it immediately. I don't want to go separate ways with any issues, or yeah, at least let's talk about it. And if
Mhm.
you want to go over it again later, fine. Um, yeah. So in my, I'm really thinking hard. When there's a moment I really forgive someone for something he did to me. Yeah, I don't really feel offended really fast. So it's for me, this question is a bit difficult.
Okay, that's also an answer for you. It's not difficult to do for you. It's easy. You're lighthearted, so we can all learn from that. When I think of it myself, for example, I this is something I would like to grow in more and continue to grow in. I think it's way easier for me now to forgive people than before. Um, I think for me, the moment it really started to offend me is if someone did something to me which I would like never do to that person or to any person, and I cannot find any explanation in my mind as to why would you do that, and I cannot place it anywhere, and then it becomes difficult for me to process. And as soon as I cannot process, that's when the resentment would start. And it was not an easy thing to also, for example, talk about or bring before people or even in yeah, prayers. But I think the scriptures also, there was this parable of this man who had done, I think he had lent something or he had done a lot of wrong and he was forgiven, but he could not forgive any person and any other person that had done it to him. And I think that story really impacted me, as in, yeah, that's exactly how your relationship is with Elohim. Elohim has also forgiven you of many, many things. Um, and maybe Elohim's perspective in that is, why would you do this to me? But even in all of it, he has found place for me to be forgiven. So why can't you forgive any other person for something that is maybe big in my eyes, but is very small if you look at it in total? And I always try to remember that in situations where I find it a bit difficult to yeah, to forgive people. I have to be honest, it's still a prayer point of mine to grow in being quicker to forgive. So yeah, I just let the word speak to me and let that govern how I go about with people, instead of maybe letting my emotions take over control, because emotions have a lot to say, of course, and there's a reason why they're saying it, but it shouldn't govern your actions. And as I said, I'm still growing and learning it, and it's easier said than done.
Yeah, indeed.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's a journey, I would say, because you might struggle with this, and I might struggle with something else, and I know how hard it can be to sometimes to just get over some things, but
Mhm.
I also keep you in prayer regards that.
Thank you. Intercession, Gusu.
Yeah,
Yes,
heavy.
Sister Ebby. Do you have something to add, or?
Um, yeah, I could add something, but I think I can relate to what Joshua shared,
Mhm,
um, in the sense that I haven't really been in situations whereby I find it very difficult in my heart to forgive someone.
mhm,
Like, I've had my disagreements with people or quarrels, or sometimes you raise your voice towards one another, but
mhm,
I can get upset and I can get angry, but not for too long.
mhm,
But I do remember the relationship that I used to have with my dad. Like growing up, I grew up with my mom and dad and siblings, and my dad and I were not always on good terms.
mhm,
Uh, Even though he's a great and wonderful, wonderful dad, a wonderful man in his own way, because sometimes he does and says things whereby I'm like, okay, we're definitely not on the same page,
mhm,
but I respect him still. But that was not necessarily the case when I used to be younger, especially in my teens, because he had his issues with my mom. And
mhm,
even though I did not always understand what was going on between them, it seems like I always chose my mom's side.
mhm,
And I could not understand why he decided to do certain things. So it's like um, I was always angry with him,
mhm,
and it got to the point whereby I was like, I don't even want to talk to you. Like I was keeping distance from him. Like he is kind of jovial, and so he would make jokes, and I would not respond. So I was having an attitude towards him,
Mhm.
and it went on for a very long time until one of the ministers started talking about treating our parents as patients.
Oh
um,
yeah.
yeah, um, because they're also vulnerable in their own way. They have gone through their own life experience, and shaped them, and that has made them to become the person that they are right now. So we can't always blame them for their actions, and more so when it has to do with two adults. And as a child, I think it's not always right to choose one side, not knowing what has been going on even before you were brought into this world.
Yeah.
So, with those teachings that went on during our own Monday class, and also during the hour of restoration, with that information, it helped me to um, to treat my dad differently, or to look at him differently. Like I'm like, okay, this is what you do. Even though I don't agree, it's okay. I still respect you as a dad, and I think that's what a minister said. That we should honor a father and a
Yeah.
mother comes with a promise and a commandment,
Exactly.
despite their past and their shortcomings. So it
Hmm.
took me a while, um, but I do notice a difference. And nowadays, when my dad calls me, like we can talk for like hours, even though he's repetitive. I'm like, yes, dad.
I read for
Parents are,
parents.
yeah, well, parents are really repetitive.
I go, dad. Yes, I feel you and stuff like.
Ah,
Yeah.
Still sometimes, honestly speaking, it's still hard to understand his actions.
yeah.
But I do see a major improvement in our relationship now,
Hmm.
to when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice testimony.
Very nice. And I think also the part that you highlighted and what the minister said in the message, it's not, it's, you respect the people because of what Elohim have said, what he has said in his word, because of the role that they have in your life, and not necessarily focusing on the person that you have in front of you. Otherwise, it can become very difficult to show respect or to treat people in the right way. But this, we do the same at work, right? You may not agree with your manager, but you seem to have some type of respect to your manager because you don't speak to that person in any type of way. So why can we not apply that to our parents, our loved ones? It's the same principle, actually.
Nice
And
analogy.
yeah, no, thanks. And because you spoke about parents, and I think that's quite a difficult one for a lot of people. And I notice that tend to say difficult, so I'm not going to use that word anymore. But a lot of people have, yeah, issues, especially with family, fathers, mothers, and how they have to treat them because they have not been treated right. So I hope, especially for them, if there are people listening that have those type of problems, that what you said can help them and can also encourage them to seek for solutions. Do it because Elohim wants you to do that for your parents. And some, I wouldn't say forget about what has happened. Yes, there are things that happen in households. It's terrible, but try to find it in your heart to give that place. I think that that's a good one.
Yeah, indeed.
And I think there were so many things mentioned in the message from very different angles.
Angles there.
Thinking, okay, we have the part about forgiveness, we have the part about doing things for other people, expectations. And as I was thinking about the topic, um, I'm really curious as how you guys think about it. How do you place judging someone in the context of doing unto others? Because a lot of people, when you maybe say something or you try to correct them, they feel like they're being judged, and that is something that we would not like to have done to ourselves. But how do you then place that in the proper context? Because should we judge each other? Shouldn't we judge each other? What's the proper balance, and how do you keep it um, in that context of treating others in a right way?
Yeah, judgment is that's a difficult one because everybody's admitting his feelings these days.
Mhm.
But Shalom reminded me some few weeks or few months ago of my brother reminded me a few months ago about a teaching which our brother Byron gave, and it's about iron sharpens iron. Basically, so uh, to sharpen someone's life, you have to correct that person,
Mhm.
and that angle, it brings the judgment a little bit appealable for people to understand that you will do things wrong and you have to be corrected to grow further.
Mhm.
Um, I haven't applied in situations yet, which I can say that I've been judging people, but I really like that perspective too, because yeah, people are really tend to be defensive when they are being judged. So
Mhm.
it's a little bit difficult for me to find a correct way because I can feel people's energy and all those kind of things when I'm talking to them. So when I'm starting to, correct them, then use the whole energy
I
will
understand what you
pass it.
mean.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me slow it down and start again so that you understand why I'm saying this and how it can improve your life. But it's indeed a difficult one, just to correct someone on their ways and say, hey, this is better for you. Like for example, in my nieces and cousins,
Mhm.
tell them of a basic example from, hey, don't eat seafood
Mhm.
because of this and this reason. And then they will start attacking me from, yeah, but everything is cleansed and all those kind of things. And I say, it's for your own health, for your own health benefits. I know you get sick from those kind of things, so it's better not to do it, even if you like. But yeah, you just see all those reactions coming up, and then you think sometimes, it's okay. Yeah. So no, the judgment part, yeah, it's something I'm also still working on how to correctly conveying the message so that um, that it will appeal to the person, but also be in line with Yah's will.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question, but it's like, is passing on a judgment the same as giving constructive feedback?
I
It's
don't view them as the same things, but for it might feel as the same thing for a person. So if you give feedback in a constructive manner, depending on the level of how offended the person can easily get, it may still feel like an offense for that person. So I would separate the two because everyone should be able to give constructive feedback, and that doesn't mean break the person down. But that does, for me, then it also doesn't mean sugarcoating. You tell the truth, but always keep in mind who you have in front of you. So if you already know that the person is easily offended, then I might not be as direct as I would normally be because I don't know how that person would respond to it. So I would bring it another way. But you should be able to. It's difficult.
I'm not saying this days everybody's in his feeling.
I think it's something. It has to do with communication, how you approach a person.
Hmm.
Because in our mind, we always judge. When
Hmm.
you walk outside, you see things, you judge. But what we speak,
Hmm.
that's where the issue is, and how we speak to each other. We
Hmm.
say that we have to treat our parents like patients, but sometimes we have to treat each others also like patient. If you go like to the psychiater, they will not judge you. They
Hmm.
will first listen to you, and they will find a way to talk to you on a certain level that the message comes. The important thing is what you want to tell the person, that it lands on a good ground to bring more fruits.
Mm-hmm.
But if you already start with some harsh words, that person will cover his own ground for his own sake, and every fruit that you will drop, it will not land in his ground. So it is important that we, especially in our black community, we lack the ability to communicate with each other, to talk with each other, to tell a person, to bring a feedback in a certain level that you will not harm him. Because the word teaches us in our tongue there is friendship and there's also death. There is good and bad in our tongue. But the way you bring it to a person, for an example, if you see a person lives in a certain lifestyle that you know it will bring him to in a bad situation, you must try to find a way to level with that person, to talk with him in a language that he will understand without judging. Because if you go to like the mental health institutions, they also help. They help people just only by talking, talking,
That's true.
talking. And when you talk, you must understand it is not about you; it's about him, of her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the issue lays in our community. That's why sometimes you want to help a person, you
Mm-hmm.
want to say something, but because that person has a different way of thinking, and when you speak, he will feel like you are attacking him.
Yeah.
So but that is the thing that makes it so difficult to try to reach each other with your words. And if you just take your time, listen to that person,
Mm-hmm.
level with him, become a Roman, like Shaul say, I became a Roman to a Roman. You
Mm-hmm.
just listen to him and talk with him with no expectation. Like if you say it in a certain time, he must change. Just
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you speak. It's like when a man plant a seed in the ground. It is not by force that a seed grows. It is Elohim that makes a seed grow by raining, let the sun shine step by step. Even if a person can make a 0.5% of a change, it's
Mm-hmm.
already something to tell the person you are doing good. But sometimes we expect a person to change for 20%. But do you know how hard it is to make a change?
Yeah.
So patience is one of the biggest key in communication to bring a feedback or correction. And don't expect, especially when you deal with Bantus, ah, don't expect a change within a day. It takes time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have spoken. Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, you can see it with the Messiah. He was there with the apostles for many years. After the Messiah was dead, the next day they became fishermen
Yeah.
again. They forgot everything what he told them. They forgot about the death that he rose, the fishes that he did. So it takes time. And Elohim knows like when you deal with mankind, it just takes time. Be patient.
Mm-hmm.
Be patient. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. People come from various places, various backgrounds, and if you maybe have gone through the journey yourself of trying to change, and it's a lot of work. So be patient and mindful of yeah, that people are trying their best. And I, someone once told me also to always remember that most people don't wake up with the intention to really hurt people or go about doing evil things unto others. Of course, you have crazy people in this world, but most of us don't. It's just we respond, we treat others from our own perspective. That's the only knowledge that we have. So we need to be mindful of that. And Abigail, I was wondering, where did that question come from, though?
Because when Joshua was explaining, he used the word correct to correct someone.
Mhm.
few times, and in my mind, I was like, when you're passing a judgment, it's not necessarily correcting a person, but you're stating your thought of mind of what is wrong and right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that doesn't always lead for correction. It's like you can pass a judgment to say to someone, "Oh, that thing that you're wearing is inappropriate."
Mm-hmm.
I don't see, like the example that I gave, I don't see that the same as correcting someone, because when you want to correct someone, I think you will use a different approach.
Mm.
It may be formulating your sentence a bit different,
Mm-hmm.
because when judging someone, it sounds a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's, and when Josh was explaining, I wasn't really sure um, whether we were looking at two different things
Mm-hmm.
or it all falls in the same category. So you have judgment and you have correction and constructive feedback. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And is your question has your question been answered by the things that we added or
Yes, I think APC's answer was quite elaborate.
mm-hmm.
Um, but maybe then again, what is judging someone? Or what is an example of that? When are you judging someone?
um I'm thinking of the Dutch word, but I don't know how to say
There you go.
it in English. I'm thinking very hard. Um yeah, judgment for me is really an oordeel this the example that you used, so for example, what you're wearing is inappropriate, or what you're doing, that's not okay. um and I think that the difference with correction is you are trying to move that person towards a different direction, or want the person to maybe change or improve. And I feel like when it comes to judgment, that part is lacking. It's just you casting your thought on how you think about something. Okay, thank you for sharing. But the correction comes as to, when do you want the person to move another way? So, for example, okay, what you're wearing is indecent. That's the judgment part. But if your ID behind it is like, I want maybe the sister or the brother to change how he dresses because he doesn't know how he or she is coming across, then I would not even start my conversation like that. I would probably be like, hey, this is a little bit
Revealing.
on the short side. I don't know if you have noticed yourself, or maybe just start talking about appearance in itself, and then start talking about what Elohim would like, and or what is more decent or modest, and then start a conversation like that. So I agree with the way you start. Uh, or this speech, as Apoka said, your communication will review in itself if it's judgment or correcting. Yeah. And I see that Sister Chin also says, I agree, communication is key in everything that we have discussed. So, yeah, a lot has been said. I don't know if you guys remember something from the show itself that you have questions about or were unclear, so we can maybe tackle them together.
No, not necessary. I really find the show in line with a little bit with my own life. So it was a good reminder to hear all those kind of things about what Yahuwah expects from us as his children.
Mhm.
So I really will encourage some people to also watch it again, because it might give them more insight about what Yahuwah wants from us.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
It's a
that's
great show.
Yeah.
nice.
I have one question.
Hmm.
When I listened to the show, I was wondering, how is when we look at the church nowadays,
Hmm.
and all these places where they use the Bible as the foundation, how do they make separation between the Ten Commandments and the law? Because you see, in certain places, they will tell you not to follow the law, but they live by the Ten Commandments.
Mhm.
And that's some things that always makes me thinking like, how is it possible?
Yeah,
Because the Ten Commandment is like the conclusion of the whole law. But
Mhm.
somehow and in some way nowadays it's been separated.
yeah. I don't necessarily think that they live by the 10 laws. I think they more live by what Jesus said: love thy Elohim, love Elohim, and love thy neighbor as thyself. I think on based on that scripture, the church is more based upon. Because if you say they live by the law, they don't follow the Sabbath, for example.
Mhm.
Um, so
I
most
mean, like, I,
when
I,
oh,
I
the
want to
most,
say, like,
mhm,
the Ten Commandments, right? Like, treat your neighbor good, love Elohim, and stuff, commit no murder and stuff. People apply that, and they will say, "Yeah, we follow."
yeah,
But when it comes to the laws, they will like reject it.
that's it. Yeah,
And like you said, and some people, some groups, they live only by what Jesus said about the two major, all the golden rules.
hmm,
And that's something that is always in my mind because these three things, the golden rules, the Ten Commandment, and the laws are actually one.
yeah,
Mhm.
not true.
But how they pick and choose, that's uh,
Yeah, this might be a statement judgment for me, but from what I know, churches live only by the New Testament, so they only go by what the Messiah said about love Elohim and love thy neighbor as thyself. So in that way, they try to do away with the rest of the law. But that's my understanding of how the churches are moving on. I'm not saying it's a fact, or not every church is doing that, but yeah. But I do see your point, and also recognize it in many churches. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can add, what I see happening in a lot of churches is that they're mostly focused on, you know, Yeshua loves you, he accepts you for who you are, and it's almost as if the message ends there. I understand why they would come with that message first, because if you would start with the law for most people or the Ten Commandment, it comes across as very harsh, very difficult, and as if people have to change their lives like completely. It's way too much for a person to process. So they probably start with that. But for me, the most important thing is, okay, you have told these people the message: you're forgiven, you're loved. What comes after that? If you look at the life of the Messiah himself in the scriptures, he also followed everything that was in the Ten Commandments or the law, and even the law that we speak about. The Ten Commandments are like, you can classify everything underneath the Ten Commandments, or you can see it as a summary of most of the things that are spoken about in the law. Um, but I guess that people stop there, and you have to change. You can maybe come as you are, but you cannot remain the same.
Yeah.
And I feel like that part is not emphasized enough. I always stress the importance of reading the scriptures for yourself and understanding it for yourself. So not leaving it at what the pastor may say or your minister, but look at, okay, you also profess that you love Yeshua, you want to live for him, he's your everything. How was he living his life? What was he doing in the scriptures? And also try to follow that. And if you would read the scriptures, you will see he would always do the will of his father. What is the will of his father? It's clearly spoken about in the Old Testament. And it may seem as a lot of rules at first, because it's you wanting to change. So your flesh has to change. It has to let go of a lot of things. That always brings how do you say that? That always brings opposition from yourself. But as you grow more in your knowledge, and your understanding, you would see that you would change because you want to change for Him. You want to be pleasing unto Him. And I hope that people would see it more as that, because when I hear people talking about the scriptures, it oftentimes hurts me, or mostly hurts. It hurts me for them, that they view the law and what Elohim says in the Old Testament, in such a way. Do unto others is mentioned many times in many stories, in many verses. But if you don't read that, you're not really going to understand why the Messiah was saying that. So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sister Abigail, is there anything you would like to leave with, everything that you heard, but also things that you have taken yourself out of the message?
Well, a lot has been said, as you already mentioned. Um, no, I don't really have anything to add to it. Um, I think we have discussed the most, not the most important things, but the highlights of the show.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. And people in the comment section, always let us know what you think, if there's something that you want other listeners to learn from as well. Um, And as I wanted to end, something came up, and that was a message that I was listening to, not necessarily from the Bible studies that we have, but it was a sermon on, yeah, doing unto others or treating others in the right way. Um, and the person said, always keep in mind that, the things that you do it as unto Elohim. And if you remember that, you will automatically treat people in the proper way, or in the way that he would like to. So that's what I would say as the ending. So thank you, all of you. A lot was said. I hope it lands for them, for most people, especially on this Sabbath day. I have learned a lot from what you guys shared, your personal testimonies as well, and I hope that the people at home do as well. Tomorrow, 12 p.m. sharp, we will continue with our series and the next episode and topic. If you want to know what that will be, make sure that you tune in. So, to everyone here, thank you very much. And to everyone at home, until a next time.
Yes.
Yes. Bye bye.